Today we had another Overdress stream, and so of course we have to check out these beautiful cards. Now, if you still need anything from Clan Selection Volume 2, there's some gorgeous cards in there, nightmare dolls, hamsters, we've got it all. You can go to 50cards.shop to pre-order them. I think that's coming out very soon. Is it this week or next week? Be sure to use the code Solemn for a discount. Enjoy! There's also some Overdress stuff up there if you want to pre-order that. Now, for the stream, we had Dragon Empire, and we also had Brandt stuff, so let's check that out. So first of all, we have the new starter, Double Gun of Duststorm Bard. When this unit is rode upon, if you win second, draw a card. So this entire card screams Narukami. And then we have Gunning of Duststorm Nigel. Auto, when this unit is rode upon by Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Randor, Soul Charge 1. So it seems like they need some soul. Auto on R, when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, cost Counterblast 1, retire this unit, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. So this card basically says, hey, your opponent retired something, now retire something else. Next up, we have Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Randor, so the card you need to write over that. Auto, when this unit is rode upon by Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene, draw a card, choose up to one card from your drop and put it into your soul. So once again, you're drawing, but you're also putting stuff in soul. So this is going to be soul heavy. And then auto on V and R, when this unit attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, cost Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 1. Wow. And this unit gets power plus 5k. As you know, I'm not a huge fan of CB1 plus 5k skills, but whatever, it's adding soul, so we'll see what that actually leads up to. We have Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene, so our boss monster for this deck, let's say. Act on V once per turn, cost rest 2 rear guards. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and this unit gets power plus 10k until end of turn. Now, and the second skill is Act on V once per turn. If your opponent's rear guard was retired this turn, cost Soul Blast 5, so that's where all that soul charging comes from. Look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of your opponent's open rearguard circles. Choose any number of unit cards from among them, call them to R, and put the rest into your soul. So the goal of this deck is essentially emptying your opponent's board and then calling a free full field from this guy. That seems strong, but that also means that the turns before this, you don't necessarily get that much value because, well, if you fill up your entire board yourself, this card doesn't do all that much. But it's a pretty cool way to get around, you know, your opponent's removal, I guess. So if you're playing against something like Brandt, they've been emptying your field, but now you empty their field, and that way you fill your own field. Overall, I like this art a lot, because, you know, the starter from before was very Naru, like very V-Series, G, and so forth Naru, but this one, you know, he has his own look to him, so that's pretty cool. Overall, though, the skill is quite basic, you know, that's just set 1 stuff, trial deck stuff. Overall, I've actually been very impressed with how many unique designs we've actually gotten in set 1 already, with the Alchem Magic, and then the order thing in the trial deck of Tomari, and so forth. Like, we've got some really cool stuff given that we're just entering a new era, so having a few more, you know, more generic cards is totally fine in my book. And then we have a new starter, Cardinal Fang Povey. When this unit is rode upon, if you win second, draw a card. Once again, this is a cutie. This card is cute. You know, Brandt, I gotta give it to you. You stole our beasts, but that's fine. You can have one. This looks pretty cool. Next up, Cardinal Noid Rhodis. Auto, when this unit is placed on V, search your deck for up to 1 world card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck. So what are world cards, you know? That sounds like an order field spell type of deal. Continues on R during the battle. This unit attacked or boosted. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 2k. Okay, so here we have our world card. So once again, this is just like the Order Prison thing, where you put it in your order zone and now it's kind of like a field change, let's say. So this is Hollowing Moonlit Night. After a set order is played, put it into your order zone. You play this with Soul Blast 1, and when this card is put into the order zone, draw a card. Cool, so we already have a little bit of Upstart Goblin magic right there. You get to deck in and search for better pieces. And then continuous in the order zone. If your order zone only has world cards, so you can only have world cards and nothing else, the following effects are active according to the number of cards in your order zone. So basically, how many of these worlds do you have together? That will indicate, you know, which effect you get. So with 1 card, your world becomes Dark Knight, and with 2 or more cards, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So this art is really cool, by the way, that wolf with that moon. So I guess the way you have to look at this is this makes the night darker. So if you have 1, you have a Dark Knight, and then if you have 2, your night gets extra dark. Now you have Abyssal Dark Knight. I guess depending on which one you're at, your other cards will get you know, stronger. Maybe during an Abyssal Dark Knight, one of your cards gets 10k power, and maybe during a Dark Knight it gets 5k or whatever, something like that. Then we have Cardinal Noid Kubisia. Auto 1v, when a world is put into your order zone, choose one of your units and it gets power plus 5k. And then during your turn on R, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 5k. So as you can see, this card gets better if you get into Abyssal Dark Knight, but not necessarily when you just get into Dark Knight. Next we have an Other World. That's interesting. In the darkness, nobody knows. Play this with Soul Blast 1. Once again, when this card is put into the order zone, choose one of your opponent's front row, rear guards, and retire it. So rather than drawing, this one minuses your opponent. Continuous order zone. If your order zone only has world cards, the following effects are active according to the number of cards in your order zone. So same shit here. Your world becomes Dark Knight with 1, and then with 2 or more, it's Abyssal Dark Knight. So the only difference between this one and the previous one is the previous one drew, and this one retires. Next up, we have the boss. We have Cardinal Deuce Orphist. Continuous on V and R during your turn. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 5k. So he gets 5k no matter what. And then act on V. If your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, so again, you need 2 or more in order to get this special skill, cost Counterblast 2 and call up to 3 Shadow Army tokens to R. Shadow Army has power 15k and boost. So you suddenly have 3 boosters or big attackers, whatever, with 15k. Now you can check out the art right here. This looks really cool. Overall, this feels a bit gimmicky, but I like the fact that they're trying to do very different things. You know, you have your worlds, they're trying to expand on that. You have your token that gets better from that. Who knows how more complex this gets? Who knows what the next boss unit is gonna do with these Abyssal Dark Knights and so forth. So I like that design space a lot. Speaking of design space, I actually want to go back to a card that we saw a few days ago. This particular card, Sealed Road, a Blitz Order. Play this with Counterblast 2. Choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and that unit gets critical -1. So this is for Stoicheia. Why do I like this card? Because it shows their willingness to change the design space. We never really got much defensive interaction in V. Never really, more like never. Except for maybe like Gurgit and so forth. You know, we had a few, but compared to all of the offensive cards, we never got shit. This card is a set 1 card in Overdress. Literally set 1. We suddenly get an entirely different type of defensive card. We knew Blitz Orders were coming because we saw them the other day, also Stoicheia actually, with those beasts. It was basically a 15k shield, so it wasn't that exciting. But this actively changes the way you interact with your opponent. Now, is it currently too expensive cost-wise? Absolutely. You know, CB2 to minus your opponent's Vanguard's critical, that's a lot. That is not something you generally want to use. You know, if you put this into premium, you're probably not going to have a great time. But the idea that in set 1, they're already willing to start printing cards like this is huge to me. Absolutely huge. Because if they print this without the Counterblast 2, and that's probably coming, you know, power creep needs to happen automatically. That's just how card games work. That means that we are starting to see some of that G-Guardian-esque interaction that we've been craving. So that's why I quickly wanted to highlight that, even though, you know, this card kind of went under the radar, but I saw this and I thought, wow, you know, if you look at something like the Dark Irregulars deck in premium right now with the Gusty abuse and so forth, the guarding doesn't even get around that, and you're like, wow, that's uninteractive. But then meanwhile, they are starting to print cards like this. And if this didn't have that cost, you would play this to counter that particular deck maybe. And so things like that just keep me busy. The fact that we are getting very, very different cards that get around certain things. You know, in V, they printed all this Sentinel restriction. And rather than now giving us more Sentinels, they give us a card that already gets around that. Even though it's overcosted. It's just very exciting for me personally. Because this means they are willing to start printing even more bonkers Blitz Orders. It's coming, and that's great. Now finally, we also got the announcement for the new set. Booster Pack 2 goes on sale the 26th of June. In Japan, that is, so we probably get it slightly later, but that's fine, that's exciting. It will have support for all decks and nations from set 1, and the star decks, and also includes 2 new ride lines. So that's cool. That means we're gonna have a shit ton of decks straight from set 2. Now, of course, some will be better than others. That is just how life works. That is how card games work. But such variety is great. I actually want to note this as well. Remember how Vanguard used to make their lower rarities? And this was also in G, by the way. I'm not trying to just shit talk V in this, because this has just been a thing all throughout Vanguard's life. And basically every card game ever. Usually your lower rarity slots were just pathetic. They weren't even part of a deck. It was just jank. And now there was this interview by the designer of Magic the Gathering going, you need jank. You want to give people the creative freedom to potentially have jank, because not only does this, let them build decks in weird ways, but it also creates contrast with stronger cards. But the interesting thing here is that we have so many ride lines now in set 1, but they are all their own decks. None of these are saying, oh yeah, but we're a budget option. We're like strictly worse than everything else. We're a budget option. Like, no, there are necessary good cards in the common, rare, and double rare slots. And not just like, oh, there's one good common. Like, no, this is a shit ton of actually playable cards throughout all of the rarity slots. Am I saying that these will all be top tier? Absolutely not. Impossible. But it's interesting, they are actually fleshing out the lower rarities and making people want to pull them. And if some are weaker, that's fine, that will be budget options, but none of these are screaming at us like they are solely budget options. They are actually their own proper ride lines for their own proper decks. So yeah, overall I'm excited. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Again, if you still need anything Clan Selection Volume 2 or Overdress, go to 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn. I'm excited for Clan Selection Volume 2, honestly. Volume 1 was more exciting for me because it has Beatrice. I'm a Grand Blue simp. But still, it's a pretty cool set. I will see you soon. Ciao.